One job I really, really wanted. It was my top. I was like going ham, studying, creating a presentation for this job, like doing it all. I literally did everything possible to get this job, like met everyone on the team, everyone on the team's team, made a presentation, like did everything. And then found out that I didn't get it. I was so upset. It crushed me. A month later, I got the job that I have now that I wouldn't have interviewed for if I got the job that I really wanted. And the job that I didn't get isn't even a thing anymore. They all got removed with the layoffs happening. And right now I'm obsessed with the job that I have. Amazing company. It just shows everything happens for a reason. You might think something's meant for you, but it's not. So don't give up and don't sweat it.
In today's business and financial news, let's discuss the times that you were thankful that you didn't get the job. Hindsight is 2020, right? TikTok and YouTube are full of videos about people stressed because they cannot find a job or employment in today's employer-driven job market. But sometimes you look back at an opportunity or a job or a role that you didn't get and you say, well, thank God I didn't get that one. We all know that the job interview process can be time-consuming, financially costly, and daunting. You go through multiple applications, interviews, assignments, assessments, presentations, only to get that decline email, or sometimes to be completely ghosted altogether. But let's be real. You haven't always really wanted the role. And sometimes looking back, you say, thank goodness that didn't happen. Let's hear those stories today. Also, let's subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're just a lone YouTube channel inching our way to 1,000 subscribers. We have a feeling that YouTube is really going to make us work for these last 200 subscribers. So please subscribe because we need you.
I cannot believe that I'm still waiting to be officially fired from the IRS. I knew that I was going to be fired since like last Friday because Reddit told me. Shout out to Reddit. Monday was a federal holiday. Tuesday I went in there waiting for my letter. Everyone was acting like, I don't know, business as usual. Wednesday, management finally was like, oh yeah, you're getting fired. I know. Thursday, they fired half the people. Today, I'm waiting to get fired. Sit around the office waiting for my email. And then I get told they're going to send me a letter in the mail. In the mail. USPS. That's how I gotta get that's how I gotta find out that I'm getting fired. Officially. I did not think this was gonna drag out this long. I'm ready to be done with it. Just let me go.
These are somewhat sad stories, but we do wish the best for those negatively affected, and we hope that they find new roles soon. Many of these stories deal with the US government and DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, as Elon and crew are conducting mass firings or layoffs or terminations, whatever he may call them.
Well, it looks like the IRS will be laying off thousands of probationary workers as part of this whole operation to shrink the federal government and create government efficiencies within the federal government. So I'm not surprised by this at all. Like, this is all a part of the whole plan. This is in direct opposition, though, to President Biden, who was in office, who gave the IRS $80 billion of funding with the Inflation Reduction Act. So President Trump, he's actually shrinking the IRS. Now, this is interesting because of the timing of it. It's smack dead in the middle of tax filing season. So we got to see how this is going to impact us. You know, as a tax professional, you know, the morale of the people that's working there, they already kind of moved too slow for me. So this may have an impact, from a tax filing perspective. Or just getting in touch with the IRS is already hard enough to kind of talk to those folks. So more to come on this. But one thing I will say, though, just from perspective's sake, I used to be an auditor. OK, and not only did we audit, Fortune 500 corporations, but we also audited federal government agencies. I will say this. There's a lot of wasteful spending within the federal government. Just to be honest, guys, we got to be honest about it. All right. Now, something needs to be done about that. Now, I have critiques in how it's being done But I agree that efficiencies need to be created in the government, and we need to clean up some of the spending. I do agree with that part. Now, the how it's being done, we can kind of talk about.
Let's begin with a few random examples to get us started. So we have a friend who was interested in a role with the IRS. She attended an online job fair in which the IRS was one of the employers attending. When she was chatting with the IRS rep, they were less than helpful, only directing her to apply via the website. They were not willing to highlight any resumes to any hiring managers. They were not willing or able to discuss any particular role in more detail. Nope, the IRS just showed up to the virtual career fair to instruct attendees to apply via the website. That was obviously frustrating and less than helpful. But the cuts to the government don't just affect government workers. They can also affect adjacent industries and companies. We have another friend who was interviewing for a job in which the company received a large amount of their business and referrals from the local veterans hospitals. The role would require whomever they hired to maintain contact and good relations with the veteran hospital network. He ended up not getting the role, but this is a good example of how even those industries that are adjacent to government industries may be affected by DOGE-led government reductions. And finally, it's important just to think of people in general who have uprooted their entire lives and sometimes families for government roles, only to be let go after the transition. I guess some people can do that even if it's not necessarily a government role. But imagine that. You've literally are moving from one city to another, sometimes from one state to another, sometimes across the country, maybe even internationally, for a role. And that really has to be the worst, unless you actually want to live in the new location and or the relocation or the role is temporary. You really have to consider if it's worth the risk and effort to relocate for a job these days. Of course, it can be a fun adventure, maybe more so if you're younger or you're single and you're just ready to travel and see new sights and try new things. But perhaps not so much if you're in debt or you're unhappy or you're overly stressed concerning the role and the move. And again, it's another layer of complication when you are bringing your family with you. So you may have a spouse and they might have to find a new role, or you may have children and you have to find new schools for them. There's a lot that can go into a move, a relocation for a company, especially if you, again, are partnered and you have children.
I'm really not sure what I'm going to do.
Katie Sandlin is still living out of boxes after uprooting her life in Carbon Hill, Alabama last month, a town of 2,000, to work at the National Institutes of Health outside Washington, D.C.
I wiped out my savings account. I maxed out my credit card. I had to take out a loan.
But she called her job an opportunity of a lifetime, educating communities about NIH research.
People like me, where I'm from, rural Alabama, like these kind of jobs don't happen to people like me.
3 weeks later, Sandlin became one of thousands of federal probationary workers to be fired. They had less than 1, or in some cases, less than 2 years of experience, and fewer protections from layoffs, making them easier to terminate.
Now I'm unemployed, I have a ton of debt, and I'm also losing my health insurance.
Did it ever cross your mind that you could be fired in a second?
That part actually never crossed my mind.
Did your supervisor give you a reason for why you were getting fired?
They made it clear that I was not being terminated because of anything that I had done.
An HHS official sent Sandlin a letter saying your performance has not been adequate to justify further employment at the agency.
When I got it really upset me because it felt like it wasn't truthful. My boss, her boss, and even his boss all said that that was not true.
So let's take an example. You all know we always like to bring you some examples where we can give you some details.
It wasn't a legal firing. My performance was good. I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I was a Trump supporter. When he talks about government waste and all that, yes, I'm behind it. I believe there is a lot of stuff in the government that needs fixing. And that's part of the reason why I actually wanted to work for the government, actually, to help change the things that are wrong in the world, you know. And I thought that someone with like his business acumen would have come in with a fine-tooth comb and actually found it, instead of coming in with a wrecking ball and destroying people's lives for no reason.
And this is an article that is from, just yesterday, February 27th. And it's called Middle Class Working Families in Columbus Affected by IRS Layoff That Cut 18 Employees. All right, so it has a few bullet points. It says the Trump administration has laid off 18 IRS employees in Columbus who were recent hires. The layoffs are part of a larger trend of mass firings at the IRS, with approximately 6,000 workers let go nationwide. The union representing IRS workers has filed multiple lawsuits against the Trump administration, including one challenging the mass firings. So, I mean, I guess it's good that they're filing the lawsuits, but that doesn't necessarily help the former employees right now, right? It isn't like they can keep their job while the lawsuit is going on, at least not in this situation. It doesn't seem like it. Let's get into the article. John Haney waited 5 months after interviewing with the IRS to start his job as an auditing agent on November 18th at the agency's Columbus office. So November 18th was just 4 months ago. We are now at the very end of February. So really, not even really 4 months, more like 3 months. But he waited 5 months after interviewing. 5 months after interviewing. Can you imagine? He probably had another job in the meantime, but that's what they say for these government interviews. Sometimes it can be a matter of weeks before you get into a role if you're accepted, or if you accept an offer, and other times it can be months. It says, so let's go back and reread this. John Haney waited 5 months after interviewing with the IRS to start his job as an auditing agent on November 18th at the agency's Columbus office. But just over 3 months after he was hired, Haney was one of 18 IRS workers in Central Ohio who lost their jobs in a recent string of mass firings triggered by billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency under the direction of President Donald Trump. Brian Kimmel is a union steward for Chapter 27 of the National Treasury Employees Union, which represents IRS workers and thousands of other federal employees. Kimmel confirmed 18 people were laid off from the IRS office in Columbus, which operates out of the Bricker Federal Building downtown. All of the people laid off were recent hires within the past year, and the majority had no experience working for the federal government, Kimmel said. That's 18 people gone from the roughly 100 workers at the Columbus IRS office, Kimmel said. The majority of the people let go were agents, as well as a few officers and one administrative assistant. Okay, 18 out of 100 workers. So that's 18%. I'm sure the other workers are preparing their resumes and looking around for other jobs, but at least they have some warning, so that's one positive, the ones that are remaining with the IRS. The employees at the Columbus office mostly focus on auditing taxpayers in Central Ohio. The firings will likely mean fewer audits and less in-person collection, Kimmel said. I don't want to hear anybody cheering this video about fewer audits and less in-person collection.
Listen, if you work for the IRS and you even think that you're about to get fired, delete my shit. Delete my shit. Like, send me a message. Hey, girl, I think I'm about to get cut, and send me your name so I can do that. Don't say exactly what you're doing. Just say do that, and I'm gonna know what you're talking about. And delete my shit. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Hit the switch. Like, don't be selfish. I know you worried about your future, but help us out. Anyway, have a good day.
they are laying off the people that work at the IRS. God bless your soul. If you work at the IRS, let me tell you something. Please inbox me. Get my information. Baby, if you go in there and delete my balance owed at the IRS and give me a clean slate in the Lord to start over, I will pay your rent for 3 months. Just delete my shit. Just delete my shit. Delete my balance. Wipe my shit clean. Please. I will pay your rent for 3 months if you delete my shit at the IRS. If they lay you off, if you work there and you feel like it's coming, inbox me. Show me that you work at the IRS. 3 months. I will pay your rent. If you work at the student loan and they lay you off too, I got you too. What? Because in the club, we all fam, right? I got you. You got me. Let's do what we got to do.
Let's just keep going. The DOGE firings under the auspices of the Trump administration firings come in the middle of tax season, and experts say could result in delays in processing returns and dealing with audits and disputes. Most taxpayers already have a less than 1% chance of being audited. About 6,000 IRS workers across the country have been laid off, USA Today reported. Most federal civilian jobs also remain under a hiring freeze, one of Trump's first executive orders after his inauguration. It shows a short screenshot, it shows screenshots of people gathering to protest Donald Trump and Elon policies at the Ohio State House. So there's that. And then someone's holding a sign that says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident. Elon Musk has no place in our government." Kimmel said workers first heard on February 20th they would likely be terminated and were waiting around for an official email. Their firings weren't official until they received letters in the mail sent to their homes via UPS on February 22nd. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. They heard the rumors first on February 20th, and then they received the official letters on or around February 22nd. I knew it was coming, but it was still a shock to finally get it. So he's saying a shock to get the letter. Hanny just recently got back from a 3-week training course in Seattle with other new IRS hires. He said he took 3 exams during the class and passed all of them. There was nothing wrong with my performance, Hanny said. Well, of course not, because you'd only been there for 3 months. Yeah. 3 months, so it wasn't like he really had time to do a lot of performance in his new role. He said his favorite parts of the job were his coworkers and the challenging work. The union has filed multiple lawsuits against the Trump administration, including one challenging mass firings and another about a directive to reclassify some workers as at-will employees. Are government workers not at-will employees? I'm obviously not a government worker, but if they aren't at-will employees, then what are they?
Hi, I just want to answer a couple questions I'm seeing quickly. One, can I lose my pension if I get fired or am riffed? The answer is no. In this country, you cannot take away a pension that an employee is vested in. That's true in the private sector and public sector. So if you are terminated, you don't lose your pension. Question 2 that I keep seeing is, are they trying to make the civil service all at will? I think the answer is yes, they would love to do that. I think realistically, though, they would have to overturn Supreme Court precedent as well as get rid of a federal statute. It does not seem that either of those things are likely, but I do think they're going to keep plucking out groups of employees, like, for example, those in policymaking positions, to be accepted from civil service protections.
If your boss ever told you this, they are lying to you because they're betting that you won't know your rights. Most employment contracts say that your employment is at will and can be ended at any time for any reason. That's not true. At will employment means you can be fired for any legal reason. There's a lot of legal reasons, but there's also a lot of illegal reasons. Now, when a boss wants to fire you illegally, they'll just say it's because of performance or make up some BS reason. But you can still sue for wrongful termination. You just have to prove that they're lying. That's why I tell everyone, communicate with your boss and HR in writing. With a paper trail, their lies won't hold up.
If you have ever experienced the feeling or the idea that you were thankful that you didn't get a job, put a lucky number 7 in the comments. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. See you soon.